All right. Welcome, everyone, to a special bonus episode of Steeler Thoughts and Chief Feelings. Chris is out this week, so we are joined by Lonnie Hofmann. He's going to be our guest host for the day, and we decided to do a special episode on one topic, this time the recent Netflix roast of Tom Brady. So we're going to break down Tom Brady's roast in the next half hour to 40 minutes or so, and let's see how it goes. Let's see what we think. There was a lot there. First of all,
Indeed.
Lonnie, any thoughts, like overall impressions of the roast?
Well, first of all, I just want to say apologies to your listeners. Dorse will be back soon, so this not quite so good fill in. You only have to put up with me for 30, 40 minutes, and then Mr. Dorst in all his glory will return. But pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me back, Ajay. Overall impression, I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I don't know. I'm just always impressed with and how quick and sharp they are in general. And I think the other thing with these roasts, especially when you have non-comedians up there, is that you see a few where people just bomb, like they just do absolutely terribly. I didn't really feel like anybody really bombed. Like there was, maybe some that were less good than others, but I don't know if there was a pure flame out. I don't know if you feel differently, but
I feel like the closest may have been. I mean, Kim Kardashian got a pretty negative reception, at least to start. And I was surprised by Dana White. Dana White just seemed really, really nervous the entire time. That was not what I was expecting from him.
yeah, you wouldn't have think of him to be a guy that just gets super nervous up there, but yeah, he certainly was. And yeah, I felt like I don't know. Did you have someone that jumped out at you as like, oh man, like that person killed it? Like they were kind of the highlight of the roast.
I From the athlete perspective or from like anybody.
Let's do both. Yeah, yeah, let's do both.
I think the best overall set. I might have gone with that podcaster guy, Tony. What is his name?
Yeah.
Tony
Oh,
Hinchcliffe. Tony
he
Hinchcliffe. I
came
thought his
out
was
just
amazing.
guns a blazing. Oh my gosh.
I thought his not only just the jokes, but he was just rapid fire. The cadence. He
Yeah,
just like never let up. He just kept the pressure on. He kept going, kept
I
going.
know.
I just thought everything about his performance was really good. So if I had to pick one as like the best overall, I might lean to him. Although I would say a close second to me was Nikki Glazer. I thought she was really funny.
Is this why we're like best friends, Ajay? Because those were like also my top two. So it's kind of crazy. Great minds think alike, I suppose. That was honestly, I thought those two were like the best as well. I mean, they both just came out guns ablazing, like no holds barred. And I've seen Nikki Glazer in some other roasts, and she always just comes out and kills it. So yeah, I agree with you. Like those two from the comedian side were pretty hard to top. What about from the athlete side?
Um, from the athlete side, I think the best one. Again, it's kind of a toss up for me between. I thought Drew Bledsoe was surprisingly good. I maybe part of it
He
was like
was.
my expectations were pretty low for him, but I was like, oh, Drew Bledsoe, like that was good. And the other one, again, maybe from low expectations, was Bill Belichick. I was like, oh, like Belichick was, yeah, like I feel like maybe from
That's
the
true.
like non comedian side, those were the two best ones off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, and yeah, you're right. Bledsoe's comedic timing was actually like pretty good. I was impressed with that. And then, yeah, I think Belichick, like I mean, you didn't think the guy like had a funny bone in his body, so like set the bar so low that like he couldn't help but surpass it. But he was like, yeah, surprisingly good. Um, and this is maybe you can fill me in, and this is me being out of the loop, but like, what exactly was? I guess the beef between him and Kraft, the owner. Like, could you give me some more background on that? Like, because then there was
Yeah.
that whole thing about them, taking the shot and like making up, and Kevin Hart taking full credit for it.
And Belichick did not look comfortable taking that
No,
shot. He did not want to do that. Like
nope.
that was, and he got out of there as fast as he could. Like you can tell he felt like completely forced into that. So
Yep.
basically, it seems like so. This is a little bit of a biased take from me because
Sure.
it'll be very clear like whose side I am on in this beef by how I describe it. But like it feels to me like Robert Kraft got tired of Brady and Belichick getting all the credit for the Patriots' success. And I think there were a couple times when I think they actually kind of feuded over personnel things. The most famous one is probably the drafting of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh,
I don't think Kraft wanted that to happen. Bill Belichick was like preparing for Brady to go, and so he wanted to keep making the team better. And so I think that was a point of dispute. And then even winding down about whether to pay Brady toward the end, Belichick didn't want to, and Kraft really did want to. And I think there was some feuding even leading up to Brady's leaving. I don't think that money was the reason why Brady didn't stay. Like, Brady's smart. It's kind of like when LeBron went to the Heat because they had a stacked team and then he left the Heat right when the Cavs were looking pretty good. I feel like that's what Brady did too. Like, the Bucks were a better team. Like, they were loaded. They just needed a quarterback. Like, it was a better situation. The Patriots were not such a great roster at that time, as evidenced by what they looked like when Brady left. So
yep.
I think that was more that. And then so I don't know if you've heard about the Apple TV documentary. There's like a docu-series about the Patriots that just
No.
came out a couple months
Yeah.
ago. So this docu-series kind of goes through the entire Patriots dynasty, but it so full disclosure, I haven't watched it. I don't subscribe to Apple TV, but I have heard a lot of Patriots fans talk about it. Most notably Bill Simmons, the like podcaster, media personality, who, like a lot of Patriots fans, it seems like he really doesn't like the docuseries. And the reason why is Robert Kraft is one of the producers of the docuseries,
Oh,
and it seems to be like very slanted toward like giving Kraft credit and diminishing the things that Belichick did, and kind of skipping over the first. So they apparently talk about their first Super Bowl, and they basically don't talk about the second and third Super Bowl at all, which a lot of people feel like that was like some of Belichick's best work.
yeah.
So, and it got to the point where like Kraft had to come out and publicly be like, say something to the effect of like, I don't know why the docuseries seems to be so negative toward Belichick. I wasn't aware of any of that happening. Like,
Got it.
so yeah, there's a lot there, and I
Interesting.
definitely lean more Team Belichick on this, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. Well, I appreciate the backstory on that as someone who is completely uninformed, but damn it, it didn't look awkward on TV. My goodness.
Yeah. And apparently,
uh,
I mean, I want to watch the docuseries too, because Belichick's in the docuseries. And people say
oh,
that, like, when he's interviewed, he looks like someone who doesn't want to be there. Like, he kind of knows this is a hit job. Like, he feels like he's kind of forced to do this. And
yeah,
so I'd be curious. I'll have to watch it for myself and see if I agree with these takes. But that's kind of the
yeah.
impression that a lot of Patriot fans are given about the docuseries.
Interesting.
All right. So what did you think? Did you have any other thoughts about the best non-comedian set?
Yeah. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, best non-comedian set. I just had well, I had a I don't know if this is not the best one, but I had general thoughts about like Gronk's performance and just general reactions like Gronk actually I felt like he did surprisingly well, especially like everyone's sort of like, setting him up as like, this complete doofus, which, let's be honest, not completely off the mark, but I think one of the things that cracked me up the most was it wasn't even when he was like performing, but just like the cuts to like him reacting. Like most people were sort of like laughing and stuff, and then every now and then Gronk, it would just be like they'd say a joke about Gronk, and he was sort of just like dazed, like looking at the camera. I was like, Gronk, I didn't like. Do you know they said a joke about you? Like, I don't know. So yeah, seeing Gronk's reactions just kind of like had me cracking up the whole time. Oh, and I also liked Edelman's impression of Brady, like during practice when he was like, "Laser focus, guys, laser focus." I thought that was a very very convincing Brady impression. So
Yeah,
props
that
to
was
Edelman for that.
that was really good. With the Gronk one, his reactions, they were like when it first started, I thought like maybe he just like couldn't take a joke at all, and he was just like not reacting because
Right.
he took it so personally. But then after a while, I agree. I felt like I was like maybe he's just like spacing out. Like what's going on? I will say though,
And
he was the person that reacted the most to like any Aaron Hernandez joke. He would always be like, "Oh."
I didn't catch that. That's pretty funny. Man, they went. Man, they did not pull any punches on the Aaron Hernandez jokes either. My goodness. Woo,
Yeah, then not
spicy.
not at all.
I'm amazed. I think generally just that. I mean, they were alluding to this during the roast that like anyone would put themselves through that. Like, man, I mean, Tom was just getting like raked over the coals, and man, I don't know, like if I could put up with just getting like flambéed for like 3 hours. So like, props to him for like even doing it. Like, man, I don't know. Maybe doesn't have much else going on. He was like, what the heck? I'm not sure, but yeah,
Especially,
props
I
to
feel
him.
like, especially when there's like family strife in your history, and they,
Oh
because it's like
yeah,
one thing when people talk about you, but when they start talking about like your ex-wife or stuff, like I feel like that's real tough.
that was rough. I mean, and yeah, again, not pulling any punches on that. Like, woo,
And they
woo.
started early. Like Kevin Hart just came out of the
I
gate with
know,
it.
man, crazy.
What do you think if you had to pick a joke? What was the joke that made you laugh the hardest through the roast?
Oh man. I mean there were a bunch. The one that I keep like coming back to though was like the podcaster one where he was like she oh hell knows.
Yeah.
That one like oh man. The delivery was very on point to me on that one too. So like that one really sticks out to me. What about you?
I think I have to go between two again. The first was Nikki Glazer's the crypto joke where she was like, "Tom, how did you lose $30 million on crypto?" Even Gronk was like, "Me know that not real money." Like
I forgot about that one. Yeah,
that
that one was
joke.
really good.
And then the other one was Bill Belichick being like, people say that Brady and I butt heads a lot, and that's kind of true, but like not really. It's kind of hard to butt heads with him when Brady's head is so far up Alex Guerrero's ass.
Oh yeah.
I thought that
Oh
was.
man. And this is so this is another thing where maybe I'm just sort of like out of the loop on NFL things. But so I guess Alex Guerrero is like Brady's like personal like life coach slash trainer person or something like that.
Yeah, and he got like increasingly involved with Brady, because Brady, I would estimate around like the time they started their like second Super Bowl run, so maybe like in the 2014 ish time, he suddenly started to become associated with this guy, and then
Yeah.
that's when he started developing these weird things like you drink enough
Yeah.
water, you'll stop having sunburn, and you can't eat strawberries because they cause too much inflammation, and everything to him was about like avocados, and so he got these like really weird non-scientific views on like diet and stuff, and a lot of that got attributed to Alex Guerrero. And then he got to the point where normally like Mahomes has a trainer named Bobby Stroop, but like Bobby Stroop isn't given any like official Chiefs privileges. Like Mahomes goes
Mm,
privately and trains with Bobby Stroop, and
right.
he also comes to the facility and does the facility stuff he's required to do for the
Yeah.
Chiefs. Well, Tom Brady got Alex Guerrero like Patriots credentials, and he was like coming to the facility, and Belichick was really unhappy about this. And his advice to Brady about training would contradict with the team's advice, and so it was this
Ooh.
weird like tension. And Actually, people that were at the roast said that the Patriots players laughed really hard at any jokes about Alex Guerrero. Like, it just didn't seem like they liked him at all. So I thought that was very interesting.
That is very funny. It's almost like, yeah, he was like the dad that goes to the little league games and tries to coach over the coach.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. So
that's funny.
I don't know
Interesting,
that
interesting color.
anybody. Yeah, I'm not sure that anybody except Brady liked Alex Guerrero in the.
Yeah, got it. Very interesting. Oh, I was gonna ask you. So, like, during and Brady finally got up there and he got his chance to like take on everybody. He made some comments about the Chiefs there. I was interested to get your reaction on Brady's Chiefs hot takes.
That's funny because I was going to ask you what you thought the worst joke was. And I thought the first joke he made about the Chiefs was the worst joke. Although I'm admittedly very biased. The joke he made where he was like, you
Was
all
that
say
the
that,
young girls?
yeah, you all say that you have the loudest stadium and it's easy to have a loud stadium when all your fans are 14-year-old girls.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
reason why I take issue with it is that the Chiefs set the record for the loudest stadium in 2014 against the Patriots, actually. They hold the Guinness Book of
Oh,
World Records for the loudest stadium. And well before Taylor Swift had anything to do with the Chiefs. So if
very
anyone
true.
should know that history, it should be Brady.
Good point. Do you know what the decibel level was that was set?
I think
Like,
it's 142.2, I think. I'll have to
oh
look it
my
up.
God.
As a true Chiefs
I mean
fan, I should know.
you're the doctor. That can cause significant hearing damage at that level, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, it's like
that's
louder than a
significant.
jet engine. Oh, I got it right.
Oh my God.
142.2. All right.
Oh my God. Jeez. You almost got to wear like concert earplugs or something when you go to Arrowhead. That's wild.
And it was a weird back and forth because it was like the Chiefs set the record. Then I think it was a game against like the Raiders. And then the Guinness Book of World Records went to Seattle, and Seattle broke the Chiefs record. And so then
Mm.
we had the Guinness Book of World Records people come back for the Patriots game, and we broke Seattle's record, and no one has
Ah.
been able to top it since then.
Seattle hasn't tried to take the crown back.
If they've tried, they've failed.
Burn. Wasn't isn't Seattle Stadium like the way it's built? It's like specifically designed to be extra cacophonous or something like that. Architecturally or something.
So I have heard that, and I've also heard people say that that's just a rumor. So I'm not sure
Ah,
what the truth is. Like
got it.
I've heard both people say both things, and I haven't looked into it myself, so I'm not sure.
Got it. I will just assume it's true because I feel like version. That's how I approach things. Like if I don't know, it's just like, oh, that's fun. We'll assume
It
that's
would be more fun if that was true. Do you have a thought for worst joke? What do you thought was, or we kind of talked about the worst set already. So yeah, worst joke. What do you think?
that's a good question. I mean, the thing is, if it's like a bad joke, it doesn't really stick with me.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
fair.
like the good jokes kind of stick with you, but I don't know if it was. I don't know if I have the worst joke. I have to say, I think the most maybe could I go for like disappointing set. Like I was kind of expecting a lot from like Ben Affleck, when he came out.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like, I was kind of it wasn't terrible, but it was, I don't know, maybe my expectations were a little too high for old Ben there, but it wasn't like sort of the show stopping set I was expecting it to be. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'd chalk that up there with like most disappointing set potentially.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought first of all, like I felt like he looked really pale. Like I was like,
Yeah,
what? Like he looks like something's wrong with him. I hope he's okay.
I hope
But
Ben's all right. Yeah.
and yeah, I agree. Like first of all, it was funny because people were joking that like Ben Affleck isn't going to be able to roast Brady, and that was true. He definitely was not able to
Yeah.
say anything at his expense. And I feel like the whole like going into a roast, and I don't know, he was like trying to roast like a fan that sounds like it was a fake fan that he was saying had like posted something, and I don't know. I felt
Yeah.
like the shtick was kind of weird, and it wasn't. Yeah, I was very disappointed. That might have been the most disappointing. Besides, I don't know why. I just expected Dana White to be like a really intense guy. He's like the head of UFC. Like I thought he
Yeah.
was gonna be like. He was like so aw shucks. Like I feel like I would have been less nervous at that roast, and that's saying something.
Maybe he's so like in your face in his like job life that he's like the polar opposite in his personal life, you know? Like I don't know. You know how that is, right? Like, you
Yeah,
know, you're
yeah.
just like completely dominant personality like at work and then you're just a little like pussycat at home, you know? Like I don't know.
Yeah, that was strange. And then what do you think? The other category I was thinking was what? Who were you most surprised to see in the audience? Was there anyone there that you were like, oh, they're at the roast?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, because they cut like there was like, you know, a lot of like recognizable people in the audience. Like I guess one person that just stuck out to me, I was just like, oh, there's Shane Gillis, you know, like Shane Gillis just hanging out, and like a lot of people were dressed up and stuff. Like I can't really remember, but wasn't Shane Gillis just like wearing a hoodie or something like that? I
Yeah,
mean,
it was a
he
very
was pretty
casual. It
chill.
had like a
So
graphic on the front too, I think, right?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, Shane Gillis was just chilling there. I'm sure he'll talk about. I guess he has a podcast too. I'm sure he'll chat about the whole thing. I don't know if he'll be on like shrooms or something. He tends to like to go to.
Oh,
I feel
really?
like he likes. I don't know. Well, I just remember. I have a friend who's like a big Shane Gillis fan, and has had me listen to a few of his things sometimes. And I don't know. He has this one uh, podcast where he talks about going to Dave and Buster's like high on shrooms and. Yeah, having quite the time. So I'd be interested to know if Mr. Gillis
Interesting.
was high on shrooms at the Tom Brady roast. That would have made it extra interesting, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I
But
bet.
um, yeah, besides Shane Gillis, trying to think about who else was in the audience. Did you have someone that you were like very surprised to see in the audience?
I was pretty surprised. Not that it's over. I just didn't expect. I saw Hassan Minaj from who was on the Daily Show and
Oh,
Patreon. Yeah, he was
yeah.
in the audience. I was like, oh, Hassan's there. Cool.
Yeah, that's
Was
very like yeah, I guess comedian. I guess that makes
yeah,
sense. It's kind of
yeah.
yeah, it's a weird mix of like you know, comedians and like athletes at these things when you're like roasting an athlete, I guess. So,
And then like two people that I wasn't surprised to see them there, but it's just weird seeing them in a setting where you're like dressed up and stuff. Where Jim Harbaugh and Kyle Shanahan, like both of them have like such distinct
oh,
looks on the sidelines and on there. Both were like Kyle Shanahan's wearing like a tux, like or like a suit. Like he was looking like really sharp, and Harbaugh too was like dressed up. I was like, oh, this is odd.
I totally missed Harbaugh. I didn't notice Harbaugh there. So he was like dressed. Was he also dressed in a tux or?
I, I don't remember now. He was definitely at least wearing like a suit. Like he wasn't
Gotcha. He
not
didn't go
his
the Shane
pleated
Gillis hoodie
khakis
route.
and no, no. He finally changed out of the pleated khakis for the first time in 20 years.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, if anybody else jumped out at me, there was another person on the tip of my tongue, and now I can't remember who I was thinking of. Anyway, probably remember after we finish recording.
Yeah. All right. So then, next question. Going to the when Jeff Ross made the Robert Kraft massage joke and Brady stood up and told him not to do that again. Do you think that any jokes should be off limit in a roast?
Oh man, that's really fun. It's really funny that that's the one Brady took issue
I
with.
know,
You know,
right?
like of all the jokes, like I mean, yeah, I don't know. That gets into tricky territory, you know, because I mean, I don't know. There's some like comedian purists, right, where it's just like you know they feel like nothing at all should be off limits, right? And I sort of see that argument because then it's tricky if you're like, oh, this should be off limits, that should be off limits. Like, where do you draw the line, right? Like everybody
Yeah.
has different lines about like where that limit should be drawn. So maybe nothing should be off limits. I guess I would say for the person getting roasted, if you agree to do this, I don't feel like you can then have a like criteria for having stuff be off limits. Like if you know like volunteer to like be the roastee, like I feel like you have to be able to take whatever they're throwing at you, you know. Maybe like for innocent bystanders, quote unquote, so to speak, you could draw some sort of line, but I honestly don't know where that is. And yeah, it's weird that massage is where Brady drew that line, you know. What about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I tend to lean toward there being no line. Like you kind
Yeah.
of, I feel like this is a specific environment where everyone kind of knows the rules going in. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
participate in it if you don't want to. Like this is what this is, and it's one of like the last vestiges of society where you can say what you want. And so I tend to lean that way. If I feel like the one line that I would potentially accept if people wanted to put it on was like, can't say anything about anyone under 18, like can't say anything about people's children and stuff. I feel like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
people want to do that, like I think maybe that's fair, but I beyond that, I don't know that I agree with there being a line.
That makes a lot of sense. One thought I did have though, as I was like watching it, right? Because I mean, in this one, there really felt like there wasn't much of a line, right? Like everybody was just like kind of pulling no punches. But then it's like, especially these guys, a lot of them are like friends and stuff, and they're just like raking each other over the coals. It's like, you saying all this stuff about the other person, and like it's all fun and games during the roast, but then you talk to this person afterwards, right? It's like, oh yeah, it was just jokes, I guess, but it's like the person still said that thing about me. So
Yeah.
I always wonder like how people reconcile that. Like maybe some people can just like, you know, brush it off and say, it's just like a joke thing or whatever, right? But it's kind of hard to unhear the things that get said, right? So I'm always curious like how the relationships, how people interact with each other after these things. Like yeah, it feels like it could get a little awkward.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that's a good point. Um, all right, the next question I had, just thinking about like themes of the roast. Do you feel like there were too many Gronk being dumb jokes? Did they go in too hard on it?
Uh oh, I feel like it was fine. I feel like it was fine. I mean, I did appreciate like Gronk. I appreciated Gronk's like self-deprecating humor a little bit. Like he kind of like acknowledged that, like, oh, you all think I'm dumb, and then he was like, oh yeah, but I kind of am, so it's fine. But so I mean, they definitely went hard after that. They went hard after Kevin Hart being short a lot.
Oh
There was
yeah.
like recurring themes. They went after Giselle and that jujitsu guy or whatever quite a bit. So
Or
I
as
feel like it
Ron
was
Burgundy
fine.
said, Gissiel.
Yes, yeah. Oh
I
yeah,
don't know why
that
that
was
made me laugh so hard.
being
It's like,
right.
or
Like
Gissiel.
yeah, like and then the Ron Burgundy guest I totally forgot about that. That was really funny. But yeah, no, I guess I feel like they didn't overdo the Gronk being dumb jokes. What do you think? Do you think they went a little too thick on that?
No, I don't think so. And I think they kept being funny. Like, it wasn't like it wasn't like
Especially
they
when
got
they
played
like
out.
cut to him being like, days. It was just like, yes,
Or like that
chef's
random
kiss.
moment when Gronk like paused during his set and Kevin Hart was like, "Sound it out, Gronk, sound it out." I thought that was like low key one of the funniest moments.
That was really funny. Or like Kevin giving him like Gronk a hard time when like he's like I guess trying to get the shots or whatever, like, and then he like got the wrong thing, and
He's like, "Come
like
on, Gronk."
Gronk totally living up to his stereotype.
And then he actually spiked the shot. Like, I think that was a
That was
real glass.
crazy.
Like, that's insane.
I was like, man, you could have taken somebody's eye out.
Yeah.
Like, god damn.
I can't believe he
Gronk.
actually, especially with like the stage was higher than the audience. Like, that if it goes out into the audience, like,
It
that
could
is, oh my goodness.
dangerous, very dangerous. Oh, and one thing, like speaking about Gronk, that again, this is sort of like my ignorance about the NFL sometimes. Like, I mean, Gronk, and I mean, I guess maybe you can confirm whether this is true or not, but he was basically saying, "Oh yeah, I I just made up routes a lot of the time, and like they were touchdowns, and like, is that was that is that real? Like, did Gronk was he known for just making up his own routes on the fly and having it work out?
I can't say that he was, but part of that is like Patriots aren't really known for anything. So it's like
Yeah.
I do like people say that Gronk had a reputation for not watching a lot of film. So you
So he's
know,
the Brett Favre of
it's
tight
a
ends, basically,
far from
is
tight
what we're
end.
saying. Like,
Yeah. So that is true that he has a reputation of not watching a lot of film, but it's also hard for me to believe that Belichick would put up with a lot of BS. Like to
yeah,
Travis Kelsey ad libs a lot, but he also has Andy Reid as a coach.
yeah,
Like I don't know. I'm sure that the truth is somewhere in between. Like that, Belichick must have had certain things that he made. Belichick's the do your job guy, right? It's like you have to
yeah.
do your job. And Brady is all about like precision, timing, and everything. Like he's like the machine kind of quarterback who wants to work on
Laser
timing,
focus,
laser
guys.
focus. Yeah. So like even though that fits with Gronk's personality, it's hard for me to believe he did it that much because I'm sure everyone would want to kill him on that team.
Yeah, indeed. No, that checks out for sure.
All right, so we're running a little low on time. We got about 6 minutes or so left. I forgot to ask you, did you prepare an anecdote? Do you have an anecdote for today that you would want to close out
Oh,
with?
not prepare an anecdote. Can I come up with an anecdote on the spot?
If you want, I can tell an anecdote and then we'll see if you
Yes,
have one. If you don't have an
please.
anecdote when I'm done, then you can do like a final parting thought on the roast. Um, So my anecdote isn't a specific story. It's more just a general memory of our time in high school. For the listeners and viewers, I guess there'll be more viewers because I'm not sure if we're actually uploading this podcast to the app. It might just be a video podcast. Um, but I was a fan, I have been a fan of Bollywood my entire life. And when I was in high school, I introduced Lonnie to Bollywood. And Lonnie really took to it to the point that there were times when a soundtrack would come out and Lonnie would get it before I did. He would be like, "Wait, man, have you heard the Cash soundtrack?" And I'd be like, "No, like, is that out?" And he's like, "Yeah, I bought it. I got it." I'm like, "What?" like you were on top of like movies coming out and stuff even before
Yeah.
I was. And we drove to St. Louis from Columbia to watch Om Shanti Om, a Bollywood movie in theaters.
Yeah.
Uh, we saw that with another friend of ours, and Lonnie and I actually went to India together after we graduated high school, and
Oh, are you?
got to
I
experience.
think I know the anecdote you're gonna tell.
Oh, I wasn't going to tell that anecdote. You know what? I'll save that for another podcast because I should tell that anecdote. If I had thought about that, I would have told that anecdote. That's a great one. But I was just going to talk about your love for Bollywood shocking me by surpassing my own knowledge of Bollywood. At least like contemporary movies and stuff. You were on top of it more than I was. So those were good times watching the Bollywood movies in high school.
They were. I have very many good memories of hunkering down in your basement watching various Bollywood movies. We tried valiantly to get other people into them as well. And like, man, I think we got our buddy Ryan's son into it a little bit, or at least he like tolerated our love of it to some extent. But yeah, to be honest, we didn't need anybody else. We had a great time. And I remember actually, you're right, like about the soundtracks and stuff. I remember like this is in the days of CDs. I guess I'm like dating
Yeah,
myself here,
yeah.
but like, yeah, there was this specific obscure website where you could buy all these like, Bollywood soundtrack CDs. And I remember I spent like way too much money like ordering like soundtrack CDs, and like they would get delivered like stacks to the mail by. I'm like, I think my parents were just like, throwing up their hands like, oh, here we go again. Like, 20 pack of like Bollywood, soundtrack CDs. But I think that company was, really liked me. I was a very
You
good
were
customer.
keeping him in business, probably.
Yes. uh, yes. And do I have, well, I have, I guess the anecdote that you will, maybe we'll tease for another time, like that you'll tell about. But we had the opportunity to meet a Bollywood celebrity in India when we visited there in high school, and I will let you do the honors of telling that one another time. But that was a fantastic experience. Um, so yeah, I look forward to like watching the podcast and seeing you regale your viewers with that one.
Yeah, that's an excellent tease. You're like a pro in the business. Uh, so I'll
Happy
have to tell that
happy to help.
story. But that was a good I mean, the whole trip, we spent how many days? Like 10, 12 days in India?
It was a great time. I mean, I was even thinking like, was it, yeah, maybe like full 2 weeks or a little over 2 weeks.
Yeah, it
Like
was
it was awesome. It was an amazing trip. Very formative trip. Your family was like super welcoming. We ate tons of good food. I mean, it was just a fantastic trip. So I'm really glad we got to do that. It was really awesome.
it was a great time. Well, Lonnie, I appreciate you coming on and doing this like special bonus episode. I
My
was
pleasure.
I was thrilled to watch the roast, so it's fun to be able to talk about it. Uh, and
Absolutely. It's hilarious to me that we had the same top two for the best comedians there, but we do tend to share the same views on a lot of stuff. So same
Well,
great
maybe
taste, you know.
maybe we're just expert comedy critics. That's all it is. Yeah.
That's what we'll tell ourselves. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Lonnie, and to everyone watching and listening. Please follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. The handle's the same on all of them. It's at STCF715. Otherwise, I will be back with Dorst is still out next week, but I'll be back with another special podcast on Sunday. Another friend of ours has agreed to do a podcast, so
I
it's
think I
so
might
new.
know who it is.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Dinesh. I can't wait to
So
see that one.
we will be back on Sunday night. But thanks so much, Lonnie, and to everyone watching and listening. Until next time.